Hey healthy gamers, this is Jack here. Got another Guild Wars 2 video for you. This one is going to be the Guardian overview, talking about the Guardian's skills and abilities, and then how I found the Guardian to play mostly in PvP during this beta. So if I had to equate the Guardian to any other class like in WoW, I would say it's a Paladin. They have a lot of defensive abilities, a lot of self-heal, a lot of group heal, and group buff abilities. And yeah, basically a pally. So let me show you first the abilities of a mace with a shield. Your primary attack is just a normal attack, and the symbol of faith, what this does is it drops a little AoE on the ground that heals yourself and any allies standing inside, gives you health regen and quite a bit of health regen. What this does is protects your strike, and then allies that are standing within that circle will get protection and they'll get reduced incoming damage, and if you're struck then you kind of retaliate and do a damage attack with that. Shield of Judgment creates a shield in front of you which damages enemies and then gives you and your allies protection, again reducing incoming damage. And then Shield of Absorption, which creates a big bubble around yourself. It pushes enemies back and then also absorbs incoming projectile damage, and that's good to use with your heals. It can push enemies back, give you that time to pop a heal or drop a symbol of faith or anything like that. Now I'll show you the skills of a staff, and what the staff does is it gives you a lot of support and healing abilities. So this Wave of Light just sends out a shockwave, AoE shockwave. It hits just enemies in AoE. Orb of Light, it'll just a damaging attack, and if you go to an ally, it'll also heal an ally. So either heals or damages. And then Symbol of Swiftness, what does that do? Okay, so it gives a little thing, and any allies that pass over it will gain swiftness, increases the movement speed. And then Empower, so another buff to enemies or to allies around us, and it heals and it gives might to allies around us, increasing outgoing damage. 6 stacks of might, that's quite a bit. And then Line of Warding, what that does, create a line that enemies can't cross. So this is basically a solid barrier to enemies. I imagine that'll be really good in group PvP. Now let me show you the skills that come with a great sword and a hammer. These are more of your offensive skills, and these can be a lot of fun in PvP. So just normal attack, this is with the great sword. Pierce, what is this called? Symbol of Wrath. So places this symbol on the ground, and then does damage, and it grants you retaliation. And what retaliation does is it reflects incoming damage back to its source. Whirling Wrath, so just like a spinning AoE attack. Leap of Faith, close in with the enemy and attack him, and also blinds them. And then Binding Blade, it's AoE attack, DPS. Now you hit that again and it pulls them in. So this could be really good for gathering up large groups of enemies if you have teammates with you that can drop AoE on top of them after you pull them in. And now here is the Great Hammer, so just a normal DPS attack. And Mighty Blow, just point blank AoE. And then Zealot's Embrace, so it sends a wave out and then immobilizes foes. Banish, this will just knock foes up and away. Wow, that really knocks them far. And then Ring of Warding, so it creates a ring that foes cannot cross. So you can either use this to trap enemies inside, or to give yourself a little breathing space to do heals or anything else like that. And then Guardians have these alt abilities, F1, F2, F3, and these are kind of like your signets. Passively, they give you an effect, like this one gives you burning damage, Virtue of Resolve gives you health regen, and then gives you an Aegis. Aegis, what that does is it absorbs, blocks the next attack, but if you hit them, you gain a larger effect but then they go on cooldown and you'll lose their effects for a little bit. See, now I gained all of those effects, but now I lost the passive, and now they're going to be gone until they recharge. So Guardians have a lot of really good healing utilities. This one is great because when you use it, you're also blocking attacks. This is called Shelter. So when you're using it, you're basically invulnerable. And then your utility skills, you have a lot of different signets that give you buffs, and then give group buffs, and you have a lot of group buff things, kind of a lot of things to remove debuffs from yourself and from your allies. And then you also have these kind of spirit weapons, which are kind of cool, that I'll show you. But here are some of the group buffs. First, Stand Your Ground gives yourself stability, retaliation, a lot of different buffs. Hold the Line, protection and regeneration to allies. Signet of Judgment gives retaliation to allies and weakens enemies. And then here are your elite skills. Tome of Wrath summons an ancient tome, which grants you powerful offensive spells. This again changes your whole weapon skill set. Renewed Focus makes yourself invulnerable and recharges your virtues. So that can be really powerful, especially when you're getting ganked by a bunch of people. And then Tome of Courage, kind of like Tome of Wrath, but this is for defensive spells. So let me show you these different weapons first. Hammer of Wisdom, Sword of Justice, Bow of Truth. So you can be a tanky paladin with all of these little spirit weapons with you. And now they have more abilities. So if you hit this again, your hammer will knock enemies down. If you hit this, it's going to do an AoE at where the sword's at. And the bow, didn't get to read what it does, but it has another ability like that, so once you activate it, there's still another ability you can do. Here, I'll show you the Tome of Wrath here. I summon that, and now I have all these different abilities. So, Flagrate, burns enemies in AoE. Affliction, sending out projectiles that are doing debuff on enemies. A Smite, look at that, that's a massive range on that. It grants might and swiftness to enemies. Well, didn't get to read the other two, sorry, but they are pretty good offensive abilities. So I've really enjoyed this Guardian in PvP, mainly because of how tanky he is. You can take a lot of damage, and just survive real well. Especially the hammer, like these spirit weapons are actually really good in PvP. Like that hammer is going to knock people down constantly and knock them back and do interrupts, and then you're just real tanky. It's real hard to kill you. A lot of times people will just ignore you because they'd rather go for someone more squishy, and that gives you a lot of room to go in and do DPS. Your DPS isn't great, but it's not terrible either, especially if you're using your skills right, doing weapon swapping, and making sure all your skills are up. I find that's one of the big keys to do well in PvP, is you kind of have, you don't really have resources, so you have cooldowns, so you got to manage your cooldowns, and to do the most effect, you got to be constantly switching back and forth so that you're trying to use every cooldown possible while it's up. Overall, I think the Guardian is a really powerful class. You have a lot of defensive abilities and support abilities, and in group PvP and other games, we know that defensive and healing and people who can stay alive and keep their group mates alive generally are worth a lot more than someone who just does a lot of DPS. And so it's not a terribly difficult class to play either, pretty straightforward. I think this would be a pretty good class for someone starting off, or just someone that likes being that role of a tank or a support character. And actually, your DPS isn't bad. It's not like you're doing no damage in PvP. You're just doing more interrupts, more support, more healing, and less straight up DPS.